Welcome everyone to the 15th exhibition of Stupid People, and boy do we have a few interesting subjects for you today. Before that, I have a new video on Moistski Live concerning Keir Starmer or Sir Keir Starmer leading a poll to possibly take over from Comrade Corbyn, and I will be streaming at 8:30 PM GMT on Omegon Plays some Euro Truck Simulator. Now for the first subject, let's go to Australia, because that dumpster fire needs addressing, and how the Australian government has handled this crisis is absolutely astonishing. At time of recording, January 2nd, 2020, there are significant fires erupting, raging and going nuts all over Australia. There are temperatures seen in that country that have never been recorded in history. It is not just hot and dry, but also deadly, and that's without the fires. But as there are fires raging, the government has seen fit to deal with that-ish, while also addressing New Year's Eve. And we all love New Year's Eve, don't we? I'm sure many of you go and watch the fireworks through beer goggles. I'm pretty sure no one actually goes to see them. Except for the Australian government, who thought it would be a wise idea, with the wildfires going nuts, to proceed with these fireworks anyway. Nothing screams of Happy New Year and let's put the worst behind us. Quite like having lots of controlled explosions. Right. Maybe you should have spent that money, I don't know, on something to help people. Context is key, and I'll be honest, optics are quite important. Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister of Australia, went to a town ravaged by the fire and had to cut short the visit after it got heckled over the government's response, or lack thereof, since their town was utterly annihilated. Mr. Morrison, I keenly await the next political coup to remove you as Prime Minister from office. I'm sure it won't take long anyway. The turnaround of you guys is astonishing. New South Wales' Premier declared a week-long state of emergency in response to the escalating brushfire threat, and since September, brushfires have killed 18 people and destroyed more than 1,200 homes across New South Wales and neighbouring Victoria, with another 17 people remaining missing after fires this week alone. Thousands have fled the fast tourist leave zone in New South Wales, with supplies running low in some cut-off towns. This has been dubbed by Australian media as the largest relocation out of the region ever, with troops also preparing to evacuate 4,000 people trapped by fires in Victoria. So understandably, with what is legitimately a crisis, the firework display was absolutely stupid and a waste of resources, and the government's response has been a bit lackluster in the context of what they're trying to achieve. I will, before we move on, give credit to the people of the town in Cobargo, because they absolutely hammered Scott Morrison, and rightly so, with them also pointing out that there are no Liberal votes in that area. They're not going to be getting the votes because of their response to the fires. Best of luck to you, Scott Morrison. Moving on. So I'm sure many of you have Netflix. I'm sure many of you have a Netflix account or have seen shows on it courtesy of things like Pirate Bay or YouTube clips that surface quite quickly. Well, there is a show called The First Temptation of Christ. It is a Brazilian comedy created by a YouTube group called Porta dos Fundos. I've probably mispronounced that, I do apologise. The show's premise is that Jesus brings home his presumed boyfriend, Orlando, to meet the Holy Family. Being someone that is not religious in the slightest, I find this already to be quite funny, because I know who it's going to annoy, and I find that amusing. However, I'm sure there are many people who are religious themselves who can see the funny side. Since the show's release, there is a petition that has done its rounds and reached almost 2 million people signed to call for the show to be removed from the streaming service. Last year, Porta dos Fundos won an international Emmy for its holiday special, and said that in an emailed statement that it values artistic freedom and humour through satire on the most diverse cultural themes of our society, and believes that freedom of expression is an essential construction for our democratic country. And I tend to agree. I believe everything should be open for comedic purposes. We know the history. There's nothing wrong with poking fun at it. It's why shows like Blackadder that poked fun at UK history especially succeeded. But apparently to a lot of people, religion is a big no-no. I know some of you are going to say, yes, but why don't Porta dos Fundos do one on Islam? I'm sure given time they might be encouraged to if they're feeling particularly brave and depending on how many Muslims there are in Brazil. This issue created a hashtag that I remembered seeing called Cancelo Netflix, which was trending. I know this because it was in my trending in the UK area, and I thought it was hilarious upon learning there was a gay Jesus. Continuing on from this, it actually got more serious, because police in Rio de Janeiro said 4 men were involved in a Christmas Eve attack at the headquarters of the comedy group which made the film. I do tend to agree with those who have criticised Netflix for being okay with criticising Christianity but not having the balls to do it to other faiths. I totally agree with that, but the response to this is astonishingly poor. And I also don't tend to agree with the idea that right-wingers are supportive of US Border Patrol locking children in cages but can't seem to handle a little satire, because I don't think that's a very fair assessment. My criticism of this entire thing is isolated within this one incident where people got offended about their faith, like anyone else does really, and I say some, not all, of course. 2 million is hardly a representative number of all Christians, and those other individuals that decided to take it further. The one thing this will do if the video and the show still stays up on Netflix is that, much like the Chappelle special, it will continue to grow in views and get more attention. I do believe, and I do agree, that all other faiths should be equally hammered in the same way. Same amusing way. I'd like to see Muhammad portrayed as a gay man instead, but not with a child that is boy. No. Fully grown man, please. And I'd like Muhammad to be the sub. That's going to trigger at least one person, but you know I'm joking. Can you take a joke? That's the really important question. So to our final story, we're going to go to Johannesburg. For this, we need a snake. Big green snake. On a t-shirt. Yes, you heard me right. A big green snake on a t-shirt. Let's just make it a black t-shirt and stick it on a 10-year-old boy who had taken a flight from New Zealand to South Africa. And upon arriving at the OR Tambo Airport in Johannesburg, he was informed by security that the large green snake printed on his t-shirt was not permissible clothing that could be permitted or worn on board a flight leaving Johannesburg. The funny thing here, there are 2 issues. One is that all articles imply from New Zealand, but the information on the pages say from South Africa. If it had said from New Zealand, it would make some sense with some of the policies we've heard over the last 4 years. So I have to slightly rail on the news outlets that have covered this for being a little misleading. Apparently, a t-shirt with a snake print on, especially one that is as accurate and beautiful as the one you see on the screen, could cause anxiety to other passengers. One does have to wonder how often people see snakes on planes, or if they just watched the movie and thought, better not risk it. According to the Johannesburg airport, there are rules about snake toys and clothing, which was passed on to the parents of the young boy wearing the t-shirt, who, to resolve the issue at his parents' request, turned the t-shirt inside out. The funny thing is, this isn't the first time I've ever heard about a snake being on board a flight, or a perceived snake. There was a passenger in June who carried a snake on board a flight from Florida to Hawaii. Now, the 20-year-old passenger only discovered the reptile had stowed away in his bag when it slithered out of his rucksack when he arrived at a holiday rental property in Maui. Thankfully, this snake was just a black racer snake and non-venomous. But back briefly to finish, I guess, to the boy wearing a t-shirt with a snake on it. Johannesburg, what's going on? I didn't realise you were so sensitive to a t-shirt. Granted, the imagery is beautiful, and no doubt this will push up those sales because of you idiots. The funny thing about this was, it did start a Twitter thing called Aviation Fail. Yeah, well done. You started something because of a snake print on a t-shirt. Now, with all subjects and with all these videos I've done before, I'm very much interested to know what you think was the stupidest. Do you think it's Scott Morrison for his handling of the brushfires in Australia? Do you think it is all of those people that got offended by Gay Jesus? Or do you think Gay Jesus is the stupid? I will let you decide. Or is it Johannesburg Airport for getting triggered by a snake print on a t-shirt? Because, yeah, we don't want them snakes on a plane, yo. Swag. Please let me know in the comments below. If I don't see you tonight over on a Megon Plays, I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday. And thank you all for listening.